son of a...
Have fun, whoever's editing this. Probably me.
I don't know.
Was that a slate?
Yeah.
That's exactly what that was.
We're good at this already.
I'm a little bit smarter now.
All right. We good?
Good.
Sure.
Hey.
Let's get to the punchin'.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Oathbringer Podcast. It's the long-awaited Oathbringer Podcast. I'm Craig Hanks, your lovely, lovely host, who you're seeing for the first time in shawl collar, if you're watching this on video.
It takes 3 hours of makeup to make that presentable, so just
enjoy it.
Enjoy it while it lasts. It's
And
gonna
over
melt.
there, he's crustier than a Parshendi in war form. It's Ryan Bruckman.
Well, I've been in dull form long enough.
And if Moash can get his own subreddit, then doggone it, so can he. It's Todd Wenty.
You can insult me all you like. None of it hurts. My Vikings lost today.
And she's like Lynn, constantly trying to break into the cool kid boys club. It's Megan Smythe.
You're just jealous that choirs of children sing to me while I read.
What?
Wow.
You're welcome.
How did it feel to have one zing back?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just so confused. I can't even. Okay, well, anyway. Welcome, everybody. And
Should have reread the interludes.
as I alluded to before, we are videotaping, whatever we say, recording, but whatever.
There's no
I don't
tape.
know what the
There's
word
no
is now.
tape involved anymore.
This is on video.
This is on video.
I don't know when it's going to be actually posted to YouTube, but it will be, so you can start
Ooh.
getting excited for that.
Hey.
Anyway, I do have a little bit of housekeeping to get through. Patreon.com/Legendarium is where you can go and support the show. I had a thought as I was rereading Oathbringer, and that's that, there are thousands, multiples of movie podcasts out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've always thought to myself, why does somebody feel the need to do another movie podcast? And then I realized that there's a reason that there's only one of us. It's because nobody's stupid enough to try to read this many books for this many episodes, week in and week out. It's an incredible amount of not just work, but time investment generally from everybody here. So if you can, we'd very much appreciate it if you can support the show. Patreon.com/Legendarium. It would go a long way toward just helping this thing be worth everybody's while, I guess. And I want to start paying these people, kind of.
We need your money, otherwise this sheetrock has to stay here.
Well, there
Forever.
is that. There is that. I do want to finish this project someday. All right, and the other thing, let's see, the legendarium.reddit.com is where you can go and join the conversation, and we hope you do that. Studio update. For those of you listening, you can't see it, but you might be able to hear it. The audio quality, I imagine, is slightly different than normal today.
I'm glad you said different and not better or worse, just different.
It's a lot like the way Todd's elementary school teachers would describe him in
Just
comparison to
different.
his classmates,
Yes.
trying to sugarcoat what they really meant.
Just because I was on the short bus didn't mean it was a bad bus. It was just different.
Anyway, so hopefully this is fun. The space is not even close to finished, but we thought, we promised you guys video a long time ago. It's time to make good on that. So here we are.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those rain or shine situations. Anyway, let's start talking about Oathbringer. Now, there is one glaring omission here, and that is Ken.
You're saying that Ken glares?
Just the omission does.
Yes.
So what we're going to do, I asked Ken if he would help us out by crafting the intro that I normally do, a recap for us. So we're going to play that now. Hi, Ken.
Hey guys, time for some Stormlight insight. I know by now you've all become accustomed to Ryan's chapter-by-chapter synopses, so I'll do my best to measure up. Prologue, Gavilar still dead. Chapters 1 through 57, punchin' and talkin' and magic. There you go. So Dalinar and the Radiants are undertrained, undermanned, and way behind schedule to be ready for the return of Odium, its champion, and the Nine Unmade. But hey, at least now that he's found Urithiru, Dalinar can get busy bondsmithing and uniting the world. Kaladin learns you can go home again and show off your big shiny Silblade. He also discovers that all that imminent Voidbringer destruction talk may have been a little overstated, and those freed Parshmen aren't exactly rampaging. They are, however, all being led by Voidsprin and those spooky fused Parshendi, who are totally in the tank for Odium and are preparing to march on Kholinar. Meanwhile, kinder and gentler Dalinar quickly learns that the other nations of Roshar have long memories, and they aren't exactly warm and fuzzy where the Blackthorn is concerned. All of that uniting and conquering we heard about by Alethkar's own Warriors 3 of Gavilar, Sadeas, and Dalinar, yeah, it was bloody. So awesomely, epically bloody. So when the world leaders stop taking his calls, Dalinar starts dragging them into his storm visions. But luckily, one world leader needs very little convincing. Crazy King Taravangian, formerly of his giant plot to use a certain truthless assassin to wipe out most of the world leaders, he comes to Urithiru, and he brings along his very own Dustbringer, who immediately rubs everyone wrong and totally isn't going to cause trouble later. Navani and a not-dead Yasna Kholin also get to share in the visions, and we learn that the loss of the Heralds and the fall of the Radiants might not be quite as cut and dried as we were first led to believe. What? From a Sanderson book? The visions also inspire a radical plan from Yasna to prevent a new desolation by finding and killing the Heralds. That's if they don't find and kill each other first, because it sounds like the Heralds don't exactly all play well together. Looking at you, Nalan, and your Skybreakers. Dalinar's work gets him also squarely on the radar of Odium itself, who hijacks one of the visions to beguile Dalinar into freeing it, but it's still too early in the book, so that doesn't happen. Also, Lift shows up in the dreams and gets mouthy with Dalinar and agrees to join the team, provided that there's good food to be had. And remember when Adolin totally murdered High Prince Sadeas? Good times, but now we have a dark copycat murder sprint running around. Thankfully, Shallan is there to put on faces, hunt down leads, and use her own Stormlight army to chase away the dark, tarry glob of Unmade that's been squatting in the sub-basement of the Radiant's holy tower city. And though Sadeas may be gone, old Witter Sadeas is still hanging out, and she's kicking it with the Ghostbloods, y'all. And she brought back Bright Lord Amaram to be the new Sadeas, so that should be fun for everyone. Oh, and Shallan's brother Helleran, he was totes a Skybreaker. Oh, short-lived Shardbearer Moash is back to being a slave of sorts and is totally feeling his Parshman sympathy. Oh, and Elhokar swears fealty to Dalinar and wants to lead a team of Radiants back to secure Kholinar. Oh, and Dalinar can totally hear his dead wife's name again and remembers her. That's question one, guys. What's up with that? Also, are the original Radiants off the hook for dropping their shards and walking away? What happens when Odium actually makes good on its threat to kill cultivation? The thrill. There's clearly something way more ominous behind that than just garden variety bloodlust. Why is Renarin so weird? So many questions. My head hurts. I'm glad you guys have to be the smart ones for a change. Get to it. And please, people, no mating.
All right, so I had a thought while I was listening to this. I want this to be Ken's new job on the panel.
Just telling people not to mate.
Well, I mean, the official Legendarium chaperone, is that to keep you off me, or
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay. No,
Wow.
give Ken a week and a microphone, and he's better at that than I am, I say. So, yeah, that was fantastic. And now that we're all caught up on what happened in parts 1 and 2, because quite frankly, yeah, this is like 2 books. Each part is its own little novel, right? It's 2 books worth of stuff that happened, and we're going to try to wrangle. So thanks, Ken, for reminding me what freaking happened in these 2 sections. Anyway,
Well,
what?
don't forget, every one of these books is, Brandon Sanderson says that these are actually, you're reading 3 books in one.
Right.
It's 3 books broken into 5 parts in 1 volume. So we've talked about it before. Anyone who's approaching this series and is, coming new to it, whether in Way of Kings or anything, you are not reading 1 book. You are reading 3 books concurrently that are all happening together. So
Yeah, it's good point. These are massive books, but we should try to talk about some of the things. As we do, I just want everybody who's listening to keep in mind that we are who we are. And what I mean by that is we are not, we're not going to get super duper detailed about every little thing. We're not
Sure.
going to hit every plot point. There are undoubtedly things that you enjoyed that we are not going to end up talking about, and I'm sorry about that. But that's not really the point of what we do on the Legendarium. And so we're going to talk about the things that really jumped out to us and a few of the things that jumped out to you, thanks to Reddit comments. But anyway, so hopefully we'll hit some of the things that you enjoyed about the book, but I'm sorry if we didn't get to your favorite moment. Anyway, caveats done. Good heavens above.
Hooray.
I'm just really happy right now because Craig's already taking like the talk show persona. He's got his mug out, like he filled it up there, the Oathbringer mug.
I brought this is you guys can't, if you're listening, you can't see it, but it's my Bondsmith mug. I'm pretty proud of it. Have you seen it?
No.
Yeah, it's my Bondsmith mug. I got it at the midnight release of Oathbringer at his signing in Provo. It was the last one. I walked up.
I know
to
he's bragged about this several times now. This is the last
Megan
one.
hasn't heard this.
I
Okay?
I'm sorry.
Please
Go
tell.
ahead. Go ahead.
That's all. I went up to the counter and she said, "We have one more of these." And I said, "How much?" Never mind. Just give it to me. I'll take it. Anyway, so yes, I will be drinking from my Bondsmith mug
The
today.
one time Craig's been lucky.
And
Sorry.
wow. In the immortal words of Alanis Morissette, you're uninvited.
Oh no. You're invited. You're invited.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Sorry.
You've now earned yourself the kickoff spot. Megan,
Megan.
the first thing you would like to talk about from parts 1 and 2, I think we'll each take a bullet point, and then I want to send it to the Reddit questions. So you go, Megan. Let's see what you got. Wow
Okay.
us.
All right. I wanted to start with. Oh, I don't know how to start this. Oh well, just go into it. So Jasna says, "Everybody, we've already talked about this. Everybody's going through
I'm
change."
sorry. I almost choked on my sweet Bondsmith mug. Was that Jasna?
Did you? You know what? I don't listen to these on book.
Okay, go on with your Jasna.
I know
point.
it's Jasna. Like I said, I'm probably not going to listen to this later, so I'm not concerned because I can't listen to myself. Jasna puts it really succinctly. It's actually something you mentioned a little bit earlier. They will try to define you as something you are not. Do not let them. I can be a scholar, a woman, a historian, a radiant. People still try to classify me by the thing that makes me an outsider. They want, ironically, the thing I don't do or believe to be the prime maker of my identity. I've always reacted to that and will continue to do so. You are a man with complicated beliefs who does not accept everything you are told. You are decided how you are. You decide how you are defined. Don't surrender that to them. They will gleefully take the chance to define you if you allow it. One of the things I've found really interesting while reading this, and actually Bridge 4 brings it up really pointedly and has a whole conversation about Renarin doing some feminine things that are just very taboo.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting watching the different reactions because when Renarin starts going to the engineering meetings, his father, Dalinar, starts sitting in because nobody's going to tell Dalinar that's not okay.
That was a good little father-son moment.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
I just really and I appreciated that Shallan noticed it. With Shallan, Adolin has started teaching her how to use a shard blade, which is a very masculine thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I love that it's Adolin that's starting to like push her toward the rich guys are not really terribly concerned about this. They're like, okay, so we're going to change the world. We're just going to do it. It's a little bit white male privilege-y because then you have poor Bridge 4 who's been through so many different things. They, were soldiers and then they were slaves and now they're back to soldiers and kind of radiance and training. They're very worried about anything that's going to knock them back down again. So they have the conversation about Renarin, and Kaladin just again says, you know what? Change is happening and it's because of us. We're the ones making the change. I just thought that was really strong, and I'm enjoying that theme in this book.
It's a very for me. I wrote down the same quote, and the thing that I liked about it is that it's not just done with Dalinar. It's done with all of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's and for me at least, it's a very much a level 3 kind of a thing. It's one of these places where Brandon seems to get a chance to be not necessarily preachy, if you want to call it that, but he gets to
make a point at least.
He gets to address this idea. You know what? We all talk about changing the world. We all talk about the world being different, but we have. And he does this too when he talks to when Kaladin talks to Hebdar. I can't remember who it was that he said was going to be basically the chaplain for all of the Radiance and training. He said, you can talk about a moral compass. That's fine. But just don't push your moral compass on everybody else. Mm-hmm. Make sure that the moral compass is the ideals. and that's what we're talking about. That's what we refer to as we're talking about what it is that holds us, what it is that's going to be our cohesive value standard. I like the fact that that's a question that rages in all societies. How do you determine what's good and bad? How do you determine what's right and wrong? There are so many pieces of 20th century history, of history in general, that deal with that very issue. And I think Brandon does a wonderful job with it, and I like the way that he uses his characters' experiences to explore what that means on a personal level while still making a global comment.
Yeah.
Well, and part of what I found so fascinating about this is that in a lot of the Spren Radiant relationships, it seems like the Spren is the opposite gender as the Radiant. You'll have Yasna and Ivory, and then Shallan and Pattern, and Syl and Kaladin. And Syl just makes this very strong point of, Kaladin remembers how his mother would say that everything has a Spren, and Kaladin all of a sudden is like, oh my gosh, does that mean some of the spears that I used were feminine spears?
Women? Yeah.
And she said, well, law of averages, probably. It just kind of blows his mind a little bit. But they have this other voice. You have Yasna, who's very much, I don't want to say feminist, but she's very much, I don't need a man to define me. I don't want to have
Well, she doesn't need
regular
anybody
life.
to
She doesn't.
define her.
She doesn't want anybody
It's not
to
like
define
a
her.
feminist thing. It's just
But at the same time,
a personal thing.
yeah, she has Ivory, who she very much values, who sees this other view. And so, it's these Spren are kind of helping them to
It was
change
kind
their
of cool
views
that
a
we
little
got
bit.
to see Ivory.
Yeah.
And the description of who and what Ivory was, that was kind of a fun moment for me, at least.
So I want to bring up my point because it's also Yasna related. There are several moments where Yasna shows herself to be the ultimate pragmatist. And pragmatism is a virtue, if we want to call that. It's a quality that we sort of put on a pedestal in our culture. You say, what are we going to do about X? It doesn't really matter what it is. What are you going to do about X? Whatever works. That's pragmatism, right? And Yasna is the embodiment of this, and it's pretty disturbing sometimes.
Yeah.
She says, so they learn that all of the Parshmen are potential void bringers. They're not the void bringers themselves, but anytime you kill one of the fused, they can simply inhabit a Parshman's body. And she says, well, there's an easy way to fix that. Kill them all.
The Parshmen.
Yeah.
Kill all the Parshmen. And then similarly, they learn about what happened with the Heralds and why the not the recreants, what happened with the Heralds abandoning their mission and how it all worked.
At the last of the Desolations.
Yeah, when they were all kind of sent to the seventh circle of hell to be tortured for thousands of years, and she says, well, so we're having all these problems. Let's just find all the Heralds and kill them, and then they'll go back there and plug the hole again. And it's like, oh my gosh, Yasna, you're correct. Intellectually, what you're saying makes 100% sense. But it's really disturbing to listen to her sometimes. And this kind of shows me, it reminds me of the limits of pragmatism as an ideal, right? So did you guys have any similar reactions to when she was talking? Or the opposite? Are you a kill 'em all, Ryan?
No, not at all. I actually think back. First thing, she seems different, having come back from Shadesmar.
Agreed.
Like there is something that happened in that. It wasn't just that she came back all of a sudden and was like, "Well, I'm picking up where I left off." Which, when we got to the end of Words of Radiance, we saw her come back and take off with Wit for a little bit.
Right.
So there's something that has happened that is different about her. And so I was expecting a little bit of that, but it still did catch me a little bit off guard for her to go to genocide so quickly, because I would like to think that there would at least be a hiccup in thought before you go, yeah, we'll just do that.
And the defense to that might be, we're airing all of the options. I'm putting everything out there. But the way she says it,
yeah,
doesn't quite suggest that. So
yeah.
So when you say that Yasna feels different. She seems different. Can you describe that at all? Can you put your finger on like
Her focus.
personality-wise?
Well, it's not necessarily there are certain personality things that might be a little bit different, but previously she had a purpose, and that was figuring out who the Voidbringers were, kind of the research she was doing there.
Mm-hmm.
And when she got back, all the work she'd been doing was done. They had found Odithiru, they had figured out who the Voidbringers were. Like, so now she's got to figure out a new mission. She needs to have a new purpose. And it's solving how do we stop this desolation, basically. And that change in focus brings a hardness to her that, although she's always been kind of blocked away from others, or, even with Shalon and everyone, like not letting anyone in, now she seems to be very much driven with more desperation. That's probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah. Now that she probably has a better understanding of the scope of what they're facing.
It's on the door, like it's not even on the doorstep. It's in the house. Like they are here. We've got to solve this now. And she probably honestly believes that she is the smartest person in Roshar to be able to figure this out. That she is going to be the one to save everyone by solving the puzzle of how to deal with this.
Right.
So
okay.
Which is probably why Odium doesn't go to her when the visions are occurring and other people are coming in, because I think she would. I think that if she were to be approached by Odium, the way that Dalinar had been approached at the end of Section 2, the conversation would have gone differently.
how so?
I think that she would have taken an approach to bind Odium in such a way that all of the war that was going on with the Voidbringers could have been ended, but it would have been ended at a cost that everyone else on the planet would have said, no, you can't. Her goal of then let's just kill all the Parshmen would have happened, and that would have been it. Odium, goodbye. Your ability to inhabit the souls of men or the bodies of men through your spren is gone. Hate is banished from this place because there is no one left to inhabit that way.
I think it's interesting that I'm curious then as to why you might think what would prevent Odium from coming to someone like Yasin, because that would probably work for him too.
So that's that, but that's the twist. Whenever an individual says we will eliminate hate by killing off all of those who embody hate, they don't recognize that they have become the very thing that they despise.
Hate?
The very thing that they despise. They become the embodiment.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that within that conversation, we see a different kind of outcome. I'm not saying that it's a different kind of that this is done on a casual basis. Brandon is giving us the opportunity to have the person who is seen as the embodiment of virtue have the conversation with Odium.
Oh, Dalinar, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
The son of honor, as he is, as Stormfather keeps referring to.
Right. Okay, Ryan. I want to hear what you've got. What's something you want to talk about?
So this isn't really all that deep or anything, but it was one thing about this book, and when we get to our final episode, I will discuss a little bit more in depth as to why this book has become so important to me. But there's a moment in these early sections where Kaladin, who I have most closely associated with in this series up to this point, gets a win that isn't just becoming a Knight Radiant.
Oh, his parents?
His parents and his new brother.
Right.
And that, going back there, because I was really concerned about if this entire book was going to be Kaladin off on a new adventure over here.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to go back to Way of Kings where it was everyone on their own adventure. I like them together. I like this group. So I got nervous when Kaladin was returning home and what that could mean to him depending on what he finds there. And his experience at home was touching to me, not just because he found his family and everything, but he got a little bit of retribution with
Roshon.
Roshon, yeah. When he punched him in the face.
Somebody
That
on,
was from my friend Moash.
somebody on Reddit commented that it was, and I thought this was smart. It was a good level 3 moment couched in a bit of level 1 punching.
Yeah.
Because he punches Roshon, and then immediately he goes, "Oh, geez, well, I shouldn't have done that. I'm supposed to be better than this." It's not anything lengthy or deep. It's just a nice moment of, no, I need to be better.
Yeah.
A self-reminder.
And it shows
So it was
it shows his growth from Way of Kings till now, because at a certain point, like, he probably would have not just punched him, like,
Yeah,
he would be dead.
right.
He was very vengeful and hurt, and so he's grown a lot into his role as this lead windrunner, basically. And I agree that it's a nice moment there. But the other thing about that time spent at home, it kind of lets Kaladin let some things go. He can move forward.
Yeah.
Like his girlfriend.
No, that's coming back. I'm putting money down on the table right now saying that's coming back.
Really?
She's been mentioned in every book.
Okay. All right.
Usually only once. She has a name. She's been mentioned. That's coming back.
Please. Oh, please. In a 1,250-page book in which you have 800,000 named characters, I'm
Consistently
I'm not-
over.
750,000 named characters. Let's be fair.
No, she's that's going to come back at some point in time as something that he has to deal with or whatever. Yeah, that's coming back.
Speaking of named characters, I'm going to skip real quick. I'll come back to you, Todd, in just a moment. But I got a I got a what's that thing called? Reddit. A Reddit comment about the character Lynn. And okay, do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
She's a scout, and then she wants to join Bridge 4. She showed up in Words of Radiance. So she had just a brief moment in Words of Radiance. So here's how this happened. At some point, there was a Reddit comment made about or a Reddit thread that was started. What's your favorite? If you could inhabit any fantastical world, what would it be? And this person said, "Oh, A Song of Ice and Fire, but I don't want to get murdered in 5 seconds, so probably Roshar. I'd want to be in the Way of Kings." And Brandon saw this. This was several years ago now, 5 years ago or whatever. He saw this and he said, "PM me your name, and I'll put you in the next book." And she goes, "Oh, you're kidding me!" And so he asked for what's your name and a brief description of yourself, your physical appearance, and I'll put you in the book. And so if you read Words of Radiance, she shows up and she has a very brief physical description, and then she's off stage, and now she's back in this book. And so it's this is a fan, Lynn.
Wow.
I can't remember the
Yay.
actual name. It's short for something, and sorry, I don't have it off the top of my head, but this is a fan of the book. Lynn is a fan of the book and is now a named character who has some serious screen time.
That is
in
awesome.
Oathbringer.
So Brandon's going to find out about us, see this, and we're going to end up being like a circle of Dulform Parshmen that just talk about things.
Either that or we're going to be part of the
Yeah.
Ghost Bloods that get sacrificed on a basis, one by one. Except for
you know
Megan.
what? Hey,
Except for
That'd
Megan.
be cool.
You know what, though? I'll take it.
I'll take it.
I've got no problem with this.
Can I bite back a little bit? I don't know. Okay.
We'll give you the diamond tattoo thing, and we'll talk about it.
Anyway, so Todd, go on. What do you want to talk about? Give me a point.
One of the things that I've really enjoyed is this glimpse into the history of the Blackthorn. I remember when he was finally able to hear Evie's name for the first time, and part of me goes, "Okay, there's no way that this is going to all be good. This is surely going to go off the rails." But then we start getting all of these other glimpses in the past of who he was as the Blackthorn, of this berserker that surrenders to the thrill, and that's all that he lives for, is surrendering to the fight, the thrill, all of those kinds of things. Then he gets the shard plate, and when he surrenders to the thrill, he kills everything and everyone around him, his own people. He just stops short of killing his own brother, but he starts to recognize that shard plate has this effect on him, amplifying the thrill and making it that much harder to hold back against everybody except the little kid that was going to be the heir. And that comes back with problems anyway. But then we see it's not that he has this, he can't control it. Later on, the bar fight scene where he challenges the guy and he says, "Well, everybody's come here for a fight. We may as well give him one." And the guy's like, "No, my lord, we're not going to do that." And he's, "What? You afraid you're going to hurt me?" "No, not worried about that at all." Who he was was so brutal and devastating and barbaric. And it carries into this, and then we see him trying to become this diplomat, trying to become the person that can unite everybody, and he's trying to be like his brother.
With Queen Fen going, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, don't want to have anything to do with you. Don't want to have anything. And it isn't until he gets her in a vision, and she sees him, and she talks to him, and she's like, all right, now I can talk to you, because now I feel like I'm really talking to the Blackthorn. I'm talking to you face to face. Now I believe you. Now we can talk. And this idea, yeah, people can change, but we don't always trust the changes that are going on around people. When the scribes are around trying to help him be a diplomat, she's not going to buy it. When he's talking himself, when he's sounds like the Blackthorn and he's in his element, then she trusts him, even though he's much more frightening and deadly. And yet we trust that because that's what we know.
Because it's known, yeah. You actually said something in there that there's two things that I'm kind of curious to get you guys' take on. First, when I first started this book, I felt really confident that we were going to be dealing with the wife whose name we couldn't remember in the first book. So that was going to be, but I kind of pegged that to be an end thing, like boom, this revelation at the end that breaks him.
And instead, it's all the way back in page 250.
So early in this book.
So to me, that was a big surprise, and I was very curious at the time to sit there and wonder, like, okay, why did I need to know this now? Why is this happening now? Because it would be a great break moment, but I'm also not Brandon Sanderson. I'm not looking this far ahead or whatever. So I'm kind of curious as to what your guys' thoughts are in terms of why do you think why that's an issue right now? Why is that brought up now versus later?
I think part of it has to do with him taking another wife. He and Navani get married, and it's only after that, and he, takes an oath with her that I am Navani Collins, and she is mine. And he has a conversation with the Stormfather right before that, where he's talking about, are all bonds good bonds? Like, are they all valid? Are they all good? And I just kind of wonder if the Stormfather saw that a little bit, him breaking his bond with Evie, which a little bit frees up his brain or whatever the enchantment is that keeps him from being able to think her name or hear her name or remember anything about her.
And I think part of it is deals more with the relationships that he's developed, that he's been able to develop with his sons, and the different tracks that those are taking. Renarin on the path to becoming a Knight Radiant, and Adolin being a hiding killer. And being made the what is he, the High Prince of
Information.
Well,
he's reporting. Are you talking about Adolin?
Adolin, yeah.
Reporting to the High Prince of Information, but he's the investigator.
Of his own murder. Which I think that's going to come to a head. I think all of these things put together are going to be a magnificent tool that Odium could use to break, to try and really attack and break Dalinar.
Well, and it's so interesting because in all of these flashbacks to Dalinar's past, they talk about how he's the perfect soldier and he's the right guy to send out there because he doesn't really ask questions. And why are you doing this? I don't know. My brother told me to. And Shallan, at times, she'll be hanging out with Adolin, and she makes this comment about how Adolin is the perfect soldier. Like, he does what he's told, and he's very precise. And every time she says something like that, I just put my hands against my face and try not to scream because it just sounds like that's where it's going. Except he's going to take the opposite path.
After a year plus of the Wheel of Time, I'm really enjoying being back in the driver's seat of knowing what's going to happen and listening to people talk about this sort of thing.
Craig told me not to read ahead, so I don't know what's coming. This is hard.
He loves doing this where he says, so make a prediction. Make a prediction.
It is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I love Evie in this book. And I'm trying to remember because I didn't get a chance to fully reread up through part 2, just making sure I'm not getting ahead of myself.
Uh-oh.
But Evie is not the person that you put with Dalinar.
Nope.
At all.
No.
Terrible match.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing that you look at and you say to yourself, well, this one's going to last for a little while and then everything's going to go wrong.
So
# arranged marriage.
So as I'm as I'm reading through this and I'm getting to know this Evie character, this wife, that something happened that was bad enough that Dalinar did something to erase, or did something that caused her to be erased, like going to the old magic. So they talk about.
Well, and they keep hinting at that with his one servant that became an Ardent. Used to be one of his fellow soldiers, and something happened. And I'm sitting here and I'm saying to myself, oh, I'm afraid I know what's coming, but I don't want to know.
Yeah. I really, for the first two books, anytime that we kind of get, and it's usually Navani is the one that brings it up, especially in this book. Anytime that comes up, Evie, they talk about how Dalinar, I know you loved her. I know that you loved her, whatever. And I'm like, the little bit that I've gleaned about her thus far in the book up to this point, like, I don't think he did. Like, he appreciates that she's there and he comes to appreciate her. But at this point, like, I don't buy that Dalinar was in love with Evie. He married her for the shard plate. Like, that's why their marriage happened.
He followed an instruction.
Yeah.
He was instructed, you will do this. Okay.
So to me, that says I need to see down the road some way that they connect, or something that happens to make that a bigger deal. And the birth of Adolin is kind of a big deal.
It is. And I think we're, and the moment where she comes to the war camp with Adolin and Renarin, it's kind of one of those moments where it's like, oh, okay, we've got some interesting stuff going on here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a connection, but I'm not sure it would be described as love at this point.
At this point, the thing that has struck me about their relationship is that they are both extremely strong, determined people in very different ways and about very different things. But they echo that about each other at least, right?
Yeah. They will do what needs to be done for their people. Both of them have done that. Both of them have done what was necessary for their people. And so I think that's something that is if that's the only thing that they shared at the beginning, it's enough to share a connection. It's enough to share it's enough to say, okay, we'll stay together because this works for both our peoples. Mm-hmm. Both our peoples are counting on us to stay together. But I don't think we've yet seen an affectionate situation between them yet.
Right. I'd say that's fair. You guys want a Reddit point?
Sure.
From our old friend Crapspackle.
Oh, hey.
That's my favorite ever. Maybe my favorite ever Reddit handle. Crapspackle. Okay. And this is a big one. And I feel like we could talk about this for quite a long time, but I assume what woman would name themselves Crapspackle? I'm not sure.
One who wanted to poke fun at your ability to think of someone thinking Crapspackle is a male's name.
Very, very possible. Yep. Crapspackle asks, how did you feel about Shallan's representation of dissociative identity disorder? Okay. We need to talk about Shallan in general, and this will be an important point to bring up. First of all, I'm not convinced that that's what's going on with her. Everybody's talking about dissociative identity disorder, what used to be known as multiple personality disorder. Mm-hmm. I don't buy it, because it's a conscious decision she's making to create these personas. There's no memory loss. It did grow out of the trauma of her past, but it also has grown out of her talents with art, and so I'm not sure that what we're seeing here is any sort of attempt by Brandon to do multiple personality disorder or something like that.
Yeah, in the strictest sense, dissociative personality disorder. There is a primary personality that retains memory of all of the other actions that are being invoked, and that primary personality takes the role of protecting the rest of the personalities, or the one personality that needs to be there. So there are some hallmarks that certainly don't exist with this, but I found it fascinating that Pattern, a Spren, one of the chaotics that feeds on lies, has bonded with a woman whose life is built around creating better lies. She speaks about the other people as though they are other people. That's the one thing about this that does feel very much still like a dissociative disorder.
Sure.
It's not that I shouldn't have done this when I was Vale. It's that Vale shouldn't have drunk so much because it's taken me so long to recover. And that piece of it, Radiant could handle this, Vale could handle this, but I have to be Shalon. There's a piece of this where she does not see herself in, and the other people don't see themselves as connected. They see them as separate people. It's a really interesting experience. I'm not sure where it's going. I agree that it feels a little bit like dissociative disorder, what we might call that. There are some hallmarks that are missing, but I think it has more to do with the swearing of oaths, the making of bonds, and the fact that pattern stays with her because there are all of these lies that she continues to tell, even if they're small ones, to everybody else around. Secrets that she's keeping from Jasnah, from Dalinar, from Adolin, from Kaladin. The fact that she knows that Kaladin is the one that killed her brother Helleran. All of these secrets that are being kept are what feeds pattern. I wonder what happens if she ever decides to tell the truth.
I have to make a slight pause. I don't know if I want to label this a correction, but cryptics are drawn to that, but I don't think they feed off that, because what is it that Shalon has to do to become a Radiant?
She has to tell the truth.
You have to tell a truth, and it has to be a strong truth. So I'm not sure about the feeding on lies. It's definitely part of it, because you always hear Pattern say, good lie. Yeah.
But doesn't...
that was an excellent pattern.
Yes, thank you.
But doesn't Ivory say that the cryptics feed... I think that's where I got it from, was that he said the cryptics feed on lies.
Right, but that may be a pretty unreliable narrator, just knowing that cryptics are not well thought of by other spren.
So see, this is what they do. They throw these things at us that they've already read, that they know that we're wrong with.
There are things. Here's the thing. This is book 3 of 5. Book 3 of 5. There
of
are
10.
Well,
book 3 of 5
of 10. There are plenty of things that haven't been answered for us either. That might be one of them, Todd.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
Now, Megan, the reason I said we need to talk about Shalon is that Shalon is a bit of a sticking point in this book for a lot of people.
Oh.
She is, hands down, through the first 2 books, my favorite character.
Okay.
Not even a contest. I love Kaladin and Dalinar too, but
I thought
Shalon...
Jasnah was your favorite. Anyway, continue.
Well, we can get back to that.
I said it right, Jasnah.
Jasnah. Yeah, you got to get it back to the back of your mouth.
Sounded a lot like Pattern too.
But a lot of people are very, very annoyed with Shalon in this book. And I'll admit that when I was reading this for the first time, and especially in these first 2 sections, I had a tough time with her as well. I just found myself enjoying her sections a little bit less. Did you have that experience? Why or why not? This is your essay question.
A little bit. My problem with Shalon is the way her character is set up. I like her as a character, and I really enjoy reading about her, getting to know herself and learning about these powers, and she's butting heads with Jasnah. What irks me is that there's this whole question of, is she going to marry Adolin or Kaladin? Like, you have to set it up so that somebody's going to get married, and apparently there are only 3 women, and one of them married Dalinar, and Jasnah's not going to get married, so what's Shalon going to do? And that's the part that irks me the most. I'm
so excited for you to read this book.
No, boosh! No spoilers. Too late. Okay. Oh, great. That's good to know. But with her, I think what I enjoy the most is seeing how she is, I don't know what the word is, how she's dealing with like this world of men that she's in. She's so excited when they find out about the second murder and nobody tells her she can't come because she's a Radiant now. She's important. She can do stuff. She's not the girl that you sit in the corner anymore.
Until Jasnah shows up.
Which is also interesting because she doesn't create a persona for Jasnah. She's still trying to be herself, but she's like just butting her head up against it, and just she's like, okay, I have to be myself with her because she knows when I'm not. It's so hard because she knows who she is now, except who she is.
Does she?
Is multiple personalities.
I really think that was something that I expected to be a lot bigger deal. Yasna's return.
Me too.
It was just kind of like, oh yeah, she's back.
Hey, that was the next. Somebody else on Reddit mentioned that.
Yeah.
Was anybody else a little disappointed?
I was.
It was a little disappointing, but if I really when I really think about it, I would expect nothing less from Yasna. Like
She's not going to make
I'm
the
back.
grand entrance.
Yeah, I don't need a feast. We've got work to do. Let's move on. So it makes sense, and they're all too busy. The Everstorm has caused problems. Like I get why it makes sense, but especially for a character like Shallan, your mentor, and they deal with it a bit like, okay, so am I your ward again? Am I not? Like, I figured out, like, I found this giant city that we're excavating right now. We're kind of figuring out.
Everybody here loves me, and they all think I'm fantastic. Why are you trying to put me in the corner again?
Yeah, say it. Say it.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
Yay!
What was I going to say? Oh, doggone it. I was distracted by Ryan's man beard.
What,
8
Yasna
days.
coming back
8
and
days.
Shallan immediately chafing because she wants to be pure awesome?
I remember what I want to talk about. There was another Reddit comment. Somebody asked, in a book that's this long, we know there were lots of things that had to be kind of shaved and taken out. And I think they were talking specifically about the return of Yasna and maybe something else. But the question was, if you were writing this book, or as you are reading these two sections at least, what did we kind of gloss over that you would have liked to spend a little more time on? So the return of Yasna, we've already kind of talked about that. I'll give you mine, and that's Kaladin with the Parshman.
Mm-hmm.
Now, later on, especially throughout Section 2, Sanderson kind of gives that to Moash, and so we still get to see the Parshman and learn a little bit about what's going on there, but I liked it so much more with Kaladin because I don't care about Moash even a little bit. And I enjoyed Kaladin's interactions because Kaladin has that charisma, he's a natural leader and all of that, and so I found his interactions to be a little more interesting with them. So I understand that. I think, was it you, Ryan, you're saying you're kind of nervous that they were going to be off on their separate adventures, and you were happy to get them all back, and I get that. I think I'm with you on that, but at the same time, that is one thing that I was really enjoying and wished that I might have gotten a little bit more of. Do you guys have anything that you might put in that category?
Rock.
What about him?
I wrote down just one little thing, that Rock was humming what seemed to be a tune that he could barely hear, his mother's song. It made me start thinking to myself, there's more going on with this, that they live by the Clear Lake, a place where a portal between worlds. I think there's more going on with the Horn Eater people than we are getting information about right now. And I want more of that. The little piece that we got where we learn his name, and he shortens it himself to Luminor, and then we get it shortened even further to Rock. I love him as a character. I think he's lots of fun. I think there's lots being hidden there.
Oh, sure.
And I want more.
So wait, what you're saying is that Sanderson is hiding something from us?
I'm saying that he's doing a wonderful job of teasing us.
Why would he do that? I just can't imagine.
Is it
Because it's
specifically
the
about
second
Rock,
book
or-
of 5 of 10.
Sure.
All right, Ryan, what were you going to say?
Well, if I have to pick something that I want to know more about, I don't necessarily want to read more about it here, but I want to know more offhand, is Taravangian. Like,
for sure.
Yeah.
you get such little snippets of him, and then you're off, and you know that he is a major player. Like,
And now we know that he's not just smart, he's smart bad.
yeah. At least, I mean,
I thought he was twisted with a good heart. No.
just
he's
trying to do
bad.
trying to do the right thing in his eyes, but even then, like,
Would this be another example, like I was talking about Yasna earlier, the ultimate example of a pragmatist? I'm going to do what's necessary. I'm going to do what works.
The difference.
Kill all the children.
The difference is...
Kill the children.
Go ahead,
Well,
Ryan.
I would say the difference would be in that Yasna is trying to do what needs to be done for what her understanding of the greater good would be, like her, to save everybody. It's a very
Roshar.
Yeah, to save Roshar as a whole. It's a worthy goal. Taravangian doesn't seem to have the same end goal in mind. It's not save everybody. It's I'm crafting a new world out of this. And so I've got to make sure it happens this way to fit within the diagram that I have laid out so that the world can be as I envision it.
Yeah. All right. So we've got a few more minutes.
I have something I just want to get a take on really quick.
All right. I was going to.
Something you need to get off your chest?
The prologue in this book, I've always loved the prologues of this series. I'm not so sure Gavilar was a good guy anymore.
No.
Do any of
agree.
us yet know?
There
are hints in the first couple of books where it's like he was trying to bring back the Knights Radiant. He adhered to the codes.
He was trying
and
to
all
bring
this.
back the Knights Radiant by unleashing the desolation.
Or vice versa or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. Is we find out in this one that he was trying to bring back Radiant, that he was trying to bring to make the people radiant again by releasing the old gods that brought the radiance to them.
Which is why the Parshendi made a decision to have him assassinated.
Right. It's just for me, it falls perfectly in line with everything we've read so far about Gavilar, but it tends to twist everything previously just a little bit now, because it goes from, like Craig was saying, this man who is trying to instigate the codes, and it always felt like he was on this righteous mission, when it wasn't so much that it's not on a righteous mission. He's trying to bring a desolation because he wants to be more powerful. And he's somehow figured it out, and he shows us this Fabrial, basically, with a spren trapped inside of it, which we learn is the listener, that's how they take forms, is by trapping a spren inside of their gem heart. And so it's like, okay, that's good information. That's new information for us, relatively. So I want to know what he had, which spren did he have inside that little black gem?
And was that what does that have to do with the Truth Stone? Was it the Truth Stone that bound?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You're talking about Zeth?
Yeah.
No.
That doesn't have anything to do with it.
I think that was just a rock.
Okay, because
It's
As far as we know.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. As far as we
it's a
know.
rock.
They pick up a rock off the road and they're like, because you are truthless, this is now your
Oathstone?
Oh, snap.
Oathstone.
Oathstone.
I win. What were we just talking about? Who cares?
Gavilar being a bad guy.
Okay. Do we have anything more we want to say
Just
on
a
that?
slight diversion from that. I think
Yeah.
it's interesting that Shonai comments that the Parshendi thought it was, or the listeners thought it was so weird that you could actually purchase slaves, and you could purchase Alethi slaves, and how weird is that? And so one of them buys one just
to see.
because he can, and it turns out to be Zeth. And he's like, he has this slave who is an assassin, so let's have him kill Dalinar or Gavilar because he's right there, and we have. And it's like, what? That is the biggest coincidence.
Well, he says that he had.
Welcome to fiction, ladies
Welcome
and gentlemen.
to fiction.
It wasn't a coincidence, though.
Yeah.
No, it was set up by
It was-
Taravangian.
No, it was. Well, I don't remember. He says that he heard a voice. A voice told him to find.
Was it Odium, maybe?
Yeah,
Set
like
him
I could
up?
see like Odium or something like that. But there was a voice that spoke to him to buy that slave. So
I thought it was so interesting that in 2 sentences it linked it all together.
I found one thing that was interesting in that, and I think it was in the prologue, but maybe it was later on, where we get this vision of Yasna talking about how she's arranged assassinations before.
Yeah.
That was kind of one of those moments where I went, oh,
Protect your family.
okay.
So we have a Taravangian on the good guy's side too.
Well, perhaps, yeah.
Yeah.
we knew that she had that though from Way of Kings.
She was always a bit of a badass.
Well, a badass is different than arranging.
In a loose cannon.
And a court assassin.
Sure.
I think it's Way of Kings, and I think it's an interlude where you get to go back and see the night Gavilar was murdered from Yasna's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? And she goes and she's talking to an assassin about someone that, to have him killed. So it didn't really catch me off guard that she would do that. I didn't find it to be a big character revelation, but I don't know. For me, the big question with her is, what is she not willing to do, or where is the line for her?
And part of it for me is, what has she learned from Hoyd, from Wit, from those conversations?
And her time in Shadesmar.
Yeah.
Beads. So anyway, I don't know
am very
where that
interested
came from.
in the whole Parshman side story, where it's in the interludes where we have Venli discovers that Ashonai has died, that she drowned, and then had some like little tiny light spread, like a little comet running around. But in her second interlude, one of the Voidbringers overtakes her mate, and she discovers that, oh, this is actually a lot worse than I thought it was. I really thought it was just us being stronger, better ourselves, but no, somebody else is going to really come in
and take
destroy
over our
everything.
bodies.
Yeah.
It's taken me a little while to be able to differentiate between the levels of the Parshendi now, because you had their original forms, then you had at the end of Words of Radiance, we get introduced to this storm form, these new forms of power that they're really excited about. And now we've got like supercharged, diffused, that are just ridiculously powerful.
And some of them are crazy.
Some of them?
They are all crazy in different ways.
They're all crazy.
Hey, is anybody else intrigued by the fact that the Parshendi are treating all of their slaves so much better than Sadeas ever did? When Moash is looking around and he says, when they realized my boots were getting worn through, they gave me a new pair of boots. I mean, it's just really been interesting for me to see, both from Kaladin's perspective and from Moash's perspective, their experiences with the Parshmen and the Parshendi.
And it's something that I brought up when Ryan and I did our spoiler-free review, but I think this is a good place to bring it up again, and that's the idea that Brandon Sanderson is not trafficking in allegory, which makes him so much more fun to read. Mm-hmm. So what I mean by that is, it's really tempting to look at the Parshmen and say, oh, well, they've been freed. That reminds me of some other, slavery issues in the past in Western culture specifically. And it's very tempting to go down that road, but he doesn't. There's no one-to-one correlation here. And that's one thing, if I were introducing somebody to the Stormlight Archive or any of Brandon Sanderson's stuff, it's be aware you can draw conclusions, you can get applicability, as Tolkien would have called it. You can get a lot of applicability out of what he writes, but there's no allegory. There's no one-to-one. The Parshmen do not equal African slaves in the southern states or whatever. And this is a good example of that, where he doesn't treat the issue the same way that you might if he was trying to make a point about American history or something. And so that's really nice. I tend to dislike allegory unless it's very, very specifically done. Mm-hmm. And so I appreciate that about Sanderson's works.
Yeah. Relaine makes a comment. Is that how you say it?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. He makes a comment about how he believes himself to be the last of the listeners. And it wasn't until he got to that point that I realized that, aside from, well, I don't even know if Venli does it anymore, but there haven't been a lot of references to attuning to the rhythm of from the Parshmen. And maybe that's mostly because we're getting it from Moash's point of view. But
by the way, that really sounded like a rock song, "Killing in the Name." Sorry. Go on.
I'd like to. Oh.
Hey, welcome to the Legendarium.
Way to crash the point.
Yeah,
this is what he does to us all the time.
Par for the course.
There's this interesting
she can dish it, but she can't
dialogue
take it.
Shonai has, where she's noticing in the prologue about the differences between the humans and the listeners. Like, the humans have their mate form and their war form are combined, so they're all conflicted. But she also comments
that was so
they're
interesting. I loved reading that.
so cool. But she also talks about how they show their emotions on their face and through their voice and all these different ways, but the listeners show their emotion through the rhythms. And if they've lost that, like they really, I mean, I guess they really are extinct, and Morlane would be the last one. But how would he retain it if nobody else had? Just a question. I don't expect an answer.
Luminor.
We have the other thing with the Parshendi of the listeners as a whole, and I think that it's important that they're called the listeners more often than the Parshendi now. We have, through the books, slowly developed a better understanding of them and trying to get their viewpoint, whether it be through Eshonai, Venli, or Moash's time with them. But I find it very interesting. In the first book, in Way of Kings, they are just this war force out there. And we get a little bit from Eshonai's perspective, but it's not much. And then in Words of Radiance, we start to understand, as they're searching for Stormform, what dire circumstances they're actually in, and a little bit more of their history and what's going on. And now we hit Oathbringer, and they have changed from what they were in those first two, but we spend time with Kaladin, with Moash, getting to know this group and starting to sympathize more with them than you ever would have in Way of Kings.
Yes.
And I find that that it has to be purposeful. I mean, a lot of times Brandon Sanderson doesn't say that this is right or this is wrong, but if he's going out of his way to give both perspectives, that means you should probably be taking some time to understand each side a little more.
He wants us to empathize with both sides enough so that when he does the big reveal later on in book 7 of 10 or whatever, that it will have that much more impact.
Or on
Book
page
7 or-
622, which we haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah, well, that's what they do to us all the time.
Wah, wah.
These two. So, want to make a prediction? Yeah, I want to make one. Let's see how many wrong predictions I can make this time around.
We should start in that way. If there's something that I'm...
Were we going to do a giveaway?
No, not yet. I'll announce a giveaway later. If I'm looking forward to something at the end of part 2, and I'm thinking back to when I had read the book the first time, if I'm looking forward to anything, it's kind of going back to the point I was making before about slavery and non-allegory and all that stuff. But anyway, thinking of the issue of slavery in this book, it's very, very interesting to me to see that the Parshmen go from one form of slavery to another from a certain perspective, from a certain point of view, as Obi-Wan would say. They are freed mentally, and they're able to adopt the different forms now, et cetera, but they're immediately set upon by these fused, and they're manipulated, and they're, I don't know about coerced, but they're, I'll just stick with the word manipulated for now, into doing what the fused want.
Right.
And they don't seem terribly upset about what happened, except that the fused keep telling them they need to be. These people were awful to you. They kept you as slaves. They keep feeding them this. You need to be angry. Be angrier. Be angrier, so that they can use them to conquer the world, basically. So it's a less obvious, but maybe just as insidious form of slavery that they've been shoved into at this point. That's what, at the end of part 2, I'm really interested in seeing is where the Parshendi go from here.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are you excited for, Todd? What do you want to know? And what are you predicting?
I'm predicting that we're going to learn more about what's going on with Renarin and how he fits in or decides to fit in to this magnificent refounding of the orders. That he's going to stop being a tag-along and he's going to do his own thing, or at least start exploring that. That's my prediction. What do I think what do I want to learn more about? I really want... I want to learn more. I want to see more about Moash. I'm hoping I see more of Moash because, when we've read about Kaladin,
you are literally the only one.
That's likely. That's likely.
There is a subreddit out there. Dare I say it? Earmuffs, Todd. It's r Moash.
I like it. The reason that I want
Deserved
to
it.
know more about Moash is because I am hopeful that Moash is among the individuals that will be redeemed in this process. And when I say redeemed, I mean that he will get to a point where he finally realizes that that as broken as the system was, he can be part of fixing it.
Ryan is
I know he's covering his face. He's covering his face,
losing his mind over here. What's going on, Ryan?
which means that I've guessed wrong and I'm never going to
No,
learn.
I'm not saying anything.
Or you're dead on correct. All right, let's just move on then to Megan. Megan, what are you looking forward to?
I am looking forward to finding out what happens when Elhokar and Kaladin all head out to Elhokar's hometown, which I can't think of
Kholinar.
it. Yes,
Kholinar.
I want to know what's going to happen there. I am a little bit afraid that the whole town has imploded based on the riots that popped up at the end of Words of Radiance. I really want to know what happens there. Does Shallan get to go? I'm not looking at you guys. Does she end up going because Jasna has said no, or does she sneak out? Does she go as Vale? I don't know. I'm very excited to see what happens there.
Okay. Ryan, do you have any memory of where your mind was at the end of part 2? Or do you just want to give a final thought in general?
No, well, at the end of part 2, I remember because we talked about it. Oh, hi, Odium. We have a face. Okay.
Exactly.
Hooray, Lift is back.
And he was
Lift was cool.
and he was so nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this nice old man.
The devil always is.
But
That was weird.
one thing that I don't know if it was at that time, but throughout this entire book, I always was more excited because one of the complaints, and I put that in air quotes, after Words of Radiance is, oh, well, look, all of a sudden now we have a bunch of Knights Radiant. You know, they're just popping up like crazy when it's taking forever to get them. And so I loved that we have this squire set up so that when Kaladin's close enough, these guys need it, and we're starting to see more Knights Radiant. There are 10 orders. Where are they all?
We've seen, 3 or 4?
We have Kaladin's a Windrunner. We have a Light Weaver in Shallan. We have a Bondsmith in Dalinar.
We've got a Dustbringer.
With who's traveling with Taravangian.
Taravangian.
We have an Elf Collar
Elfcaller in Yasna. We have a
That's 5.
Truth Watcher in Renarin.
and an Edge Dancer.
And an Edge Dancer in Lift.
And so we've got
to know the Skybreakers a little bit.
because wasn't Zeth is
with
Skybreaker?
Oh, yeah.
Zeth is with, he's not a Skybreaker yet. He's with the
Skybreaker. Isn't this
He's in the-
Skybreaker Nile?
Null.
Whatever.
One of the heralds.
That stayed on and that was killing people right before they would bond with Spren and bring back the.
Yeah, he was trying to prevent the next desolation from coming by
kind of a
killing
nice
off the
little.
Knights Radiant.
That was kind of a nice little. I'm going to throw this sentence in. It was like.
Yeah, if you've read Edge Dancer, then you get more of that story.
Yeah.
So that we've got 8, and I'm trying to think. I don't know that we don't have a. Gosh.
That guy is what we don't
This is
have.
why I don't even try.
So there's
This is
2
why I
left
have
that we don't know.
There's 2 left, and I want to say one of them is the word that's coming to my head is not it because I'm thinking Rock Slayer because in the prologue of Way of Kings they talk about how this group did a good job because the what are they called, the giant stone creatures
Yeah.
that they were destroyed and like they did a good job. Thank you. Yes, I know it's great radio and I'm doing good.
I'm right there with you because you're going, oh, what are they called? And I'm like, I have no freaking idea. I can't remember.
The thread is going to explode.
So,
So, like I said, this is one of those moments that there's somebody who's got it memorized. It's yelling at their radio right now. I can't believe you don't remember these. These
big giant stone thingies.
Yeah.
It's on the cover.
The Thunderclast.
Hey,
Thank you,
Thunderclast.
Thunderclast.
there it is. All right, you guys, we should probably call it because, shocker, we went a little long.
Stone Wards, Wheel Shapers.
Stone Wards, Will Shapers.
Stone Wards and Wheel Shapers. We haven't really heard either one of those 2.
Not in modern.
You know what? I don't want to talk about this anymore because we're done. That's why.
Can I just say one thing?
Oh gosh.
I'm just really surprised that none of you mentioned the fact that there's a female parchment out there named Ken.
Really? Oh, I forgot about this. Okay. I'm sorry. What was that name again?
It was Ken.
Okay. Yeah.
I have to ask a
We missed
question.
you.
Ken the slave woman.
Ken the Parshendi woman.
I have to ask a question because if it is in these sections and we don't talk about it, we will get yelled at.
Jeez.
The library.
So much for ending, everybody.
Library.
The library. Dark
yeah.
Shadows. Is that ringing a bell with anything?
Yes.
Oh, we didn't even talk about freaking
Shafir.
the unmade in the basement of Urithiru.
Okay,
We
I
didn't
just
even
wanted to
talk
make sure I
about
wasn't
Urithiru.
revealing anything about the
No,
unmade.
no.
and Renarin opening up all of the drawers.
Mm-hmm.
That's
what are
that's
the
why I'm
powers?
saying.
Seeing what he's a truth watcher, he sees how it works, how that works out. So, but yeah, this whole introduction of a brand new villain subset, because Dalinar sees
Odium. Oh, the Odium's champion.
Odium's champion with the 9 shadows, and we are introduced to the Unmade, which to me was huge and super exciting that we now have what I will call a sub boss, I guess, if you're a video game player or whatever,
A mini boss.
Mini boss,
boss.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Something like that. I loved them dealing with that, and it tied into Adolin's whole murder thing. So
Yeah, we didn't even get to that, and I'm sorry,
Yeah, you
but
did.
we don't.
You did
but
warn
we
us
don't
at the
have
beginning.
the time for it at this point
Yeah.
to really give it what it deserves. And so I'm really glad that I put a little caveat at the beginning that said, "I'm sorry, we're not going to get to fill in your favorite thing here." Like it's we only have so much time on this podcast. So anyway, let's go. And if you have made it to the end of the episode, then you should know we are going to do a giveaway. Hang in there. We will announce that, I think, during the next episode. We'll announce the giveaway, and then we'll pick a winner by the 3rd Oathbringer episode. So, yes, we will get there. And if I understand correctly, Ryan, we have an excellent prize.
yes, I believe so.
It's pretty cool. So,
We're going to be giving
Something
you
you
Craig's
cannot buy.
Bondsmith mug.
you can have my Bondsmith mug when you pry it from my adhered fingers. So anyway,
Bonded to the mug. It's too late.
thanks for listening,
It's his
everybody. Thank you very much for listening. Head to patreon.com/legendarium to support the show, and go to thelegendarium.reddit.com to yell at us a lot for all the things we missed. This is I'll take just a second and say the post-episode threads are oftentimes where I like to interact a little bit more about the points we missed. When I put up the pre-episode threads and say, what do you guys want to hear about? And I kind of stay more or less silent on those. I don't do a lot of commentary on those. But I will be very active on that thread. Ryan will probably pop in every once in a while. You're not as big a Redditor as I am, but Ryan will pop in there too.
When my name is said 3 times in a Reddit thread, I show up.
Anyway, so I hope to see all of you guys there. And we'll definitely see you in just a few weeks. I think 3 weeks until our next Oathbringer episode.
Mm-hmm.
We got a couple Narnias to get through. Thank goodness for Narnia. Good heavens above. 200 pages of easy reading, ladies and gentlemen.
I like it.
So, yeah, we'll see you then. Thanks again, everybody, for listening. And we'll catch you next time.
Bye.